We are honored today to have Angesom, and please correct me if I pronounce that wrong, Teklu here with us today. Angesom Teklu is a freedom advocate and a public policy doctorate candidate, and has witnessed firsthand how a government can gradually take control of every aspect of a citizen's lives. His country of origin, Eritrea, was once a beacon of African democracy, but today it is one of the most oppressive and authoritarian countries in the world. As a result, he has been involved in underground pro-democracy activism and citizen journalism in Eritrea, where the private press is prohibited. Using his journalism and new media training from the Aileen Getty School of Citizen Journalism, he wrote news articles, journals, opinion pieces, and analysis on freedom-related issues. Despite being tortured, detained, and forcibly displaced because of his work, Angesom continues to speak out about his experiences with authoritarianism and advocate for freedom on a variety of platforms. He also has been active in awareness efforts on the human rights situation in Eritrea and is supporting fellow Eritrean refugees. Join Angesom in his fight against authoritarianism and for freedom by giving me a huge round of applause and welcome him to American Preparatory Academy.
Thank you so much for the amazing introduction, and hello again, everyone. I hope you are having a great day. My name is Angesom Teklu, and I am sure you have heard about our project, the Dissident Project, before. You have some speakers, my colleagues from North Korea and Venezuela before, and this is a continuation of the project. And we, as a Dissident Project, are people from different countries, but what unify us in a way is that most of our stories are similar. So as you hear me, as you hear my story, I want you to get the similarities among the stories that you have heard before, whether it's about Venezuela or whether it is about North Korea and other countries, and to see the similarities and to get insights from the similarities, and then ask yourself, what does that mean to me as someone who is living here? And with that, how many of you have heard about a country called Eritrea? Oh, a lot. Well, looks like the social studies class here are strong. A lot of people have never heard of Eritrea, but for those who haven't heard of Eritrea, it is a country in the northeast of Africa, or somewhere known as the Horn of Africa in the Red Sea. Eritrea is not known to many because it is a very closed authoritarian regime, just like North Korea, and that's why it's unfortunately known as African North Korea. If you ever read anything about Eritrea, it would always be something unfortunate. Either a country who is either number one or number two in arresting journalists. A country who is either number one or number two in oppressing Christians and other religious groups. A country who is known for producing the world's largest number of refugees per capita, although the country is less than 4 million and not large than the state of Pennsylvania here in the US. And then, was Eritrea always like that? Why was the country always that oppressing, that authoritarian? The short answer to that question is no. And here I have two pictures. I don't know if you can see them with the light, but these are two pictures of the country now and then. So before some years, Eritrea used to be one of the best countries in Africa. The cities in Eritrea would look like any city in Europe or US at that time in 1950s. And the country had strong economy. People were also relatively free to live their life in a way. It had, at times, strong democracy, all the liberties and freedoms that many people have here, whether it's freedom of speech, freedom of press, even freedom to lead your own life. But now, if you see anywhere or if you read anywhere about Eritrea, the statistics that you see is either crimes against humanity or refugees. A country that was once known as the beacon of democracy in Africa right now is known to Africa's North Korea, where a lot of things that we know and think here are for granted, including from the big things like voting for your own government, having a parliament, having a press, to small things that I am going to discuss later on, which is your ability to choose where to study, what to study, where to go to school, or what you want to work, what you want to do in your life. Government decides all of that. Or where do you get your health care? Even like what religion or faith you should have. So how does a country that was once, again, a beacon of democracy became where it is right now? Again, I am talking a story of many years, starting from 2001 until now. And I'm not going to cover all of them here, obviously, but I am going to talk about some of the signs of authoritarianism that many of us, either me or the generation before me, were unable to see when these freedoms were taken from us. But now when we see back, we realize that those were the moments we should have stand. Those were the moments we should have said no when they were taken from us. The first thing with that was it all started with indefinite national service. So I don't know if you have heard about this concept of national service. It is basically, a policy in many countries where people from certain ages compulsory would go to a military training, and after that they will serve when they are called. So many countries in the world, like Israel, Switzerland, Sweden, and others have national service. What makes the national service in Eritrea different is that when it was started as something good. Government was like saying, everyone should serve their own country. And people were actually happy to do that, to go to a military training, because Eritrean people are patriotic and also people love serving their community. But then the government the government makes this indefinite. The government says we have threats coming from other countries, so this will be indefinite. So what does that mean? That means everyone between the age of 16 to 45 will be in indefinite national service. That means you will go to a military training camp, and after that, the government will place you where you should work. It could either be civilian work, like all your teachers will be in national service. Everybody that you find anywhere will be in national service, which means when the government wants to control things, the first thing they said was, how are we going to get the people that are going to work for us? And they decided that is going to be a way. So the government used national service to create a big government from where it was a very small and limited to a government that controls everybody's lives. And a lot of people, when I have this speech, a lot of students would ask me, well, what if you don't want to go? Well, there is a punishment for that. So people who decided not to go to a national service will either be arrested, detained, even tortured. I have some illustrations of some common techniques of people being tortured. I hope they are not too graphic for you. But basically, this was to show that there are many ways there are many ways people who decided not to go to the national service or who decided to leave their national service without a permit would be taken to these detention-centered forced labor camps. And then a lot of them have gone through different kinds of physical torture. And then the government created a school to national service or a school to military pipeline. What does that mean is, at the end of your senior year, every student in the whole country have to finish their last year of high school in a government school. This government school is located in a military training camp. So if you want to finish your high school, if you want to sit in university entering examination, then you have to go there. And if you didn't go there, then they will find a way to arrest you and take you to the military training anyway. It's not that you have a choice to go there or not. But for someone who would want to go to college, then they will be forced to spend their last year of high school in the military training. What you see is photos of me. I don't know if you can recognize me from these photos, but it's photos of me in the military training, either during the military training or during classes and taking the national examination. Then the other aspect the government comes is religion. So in Eritrea, there were a diverse religious organizations. Historically, Eritrea is a mix of Christians and Muslims that have been living in the country for many years. And in a Christian phase, historically, there were three churches: the Orthodox Church, like the Russia Orthodox Church, the Catholic Church, and then the Lutheran Church. And there were many other churches too. So by the time the government first started with the Jehovah's Witnesses, because many members of the Jehovah's Witnesses don't recognize a world government or the national service, so they refuse to go to the national service and the government to arrest them. And the reason they give is that, well, everybody is equal, everybody should serve. And at first people thought, oh, that's right. I mean, why they should get a special treatment. But later on, then they came after other Christian denominations, either the Pentecostal Church, and we were also talking earlier about the Church of the Latter-day Saints that was in Eritrea, that started by missionaries, and it was in Eritrea for 2 or 3 years, but then it became the victim of that closure. And when the government closed all the churches, the government now comes and says, there are only 4 recognized phases in Eritrea. 3 of them are the 3 Christian phases that I told you. And then the 4th one is the Muslim faith. Apart from that, now everything is illegal, even if in your own house, if you are known to practice other phases not recognized by the government, then you will be arrested. And after they arrest Christians, there are thousands of Christians now behind bars in Eritrea, in detention centers. And after they arrest them, they would take them to what they call re-education camps, where they would try to push them to abandon their faith. So the only way you can get out of that re-education camp is if you agree that you will abandon your faith. and you will be member of these 4 government-recognized phases. And many Christians refused to do that, and now they have been in these detention centers where they do a lot of hard labor. They work for free. It's like free labor, and have been living in these camps for now 16 to 17 years. And then the next stage after that was healthcare. And healthcare, like the US and many countries, was different. There was private healthcare, there was nonprofit healthcare, there was government healthcare. And the government decided that we are going to close down all the private hospitals, and we are going to provide free healthcare for all. So when it comes like that, when somebody comes and offers you free healthcare, who wouldn't want a free healthcare, right? And everybody was like, yeah, we want free healthcare. But what happens is the health system became inefficient, it became burdened. Many health professionals start now to leave the country, to go work in other countries, and the whole health care system collapsed. Right now, it's very common if you visit to these health centers to see malnutrition children, to see health care hospitals and clinics that doesn't have even enough space to take care of their patients. And it's very common in Eritrea right now for people to die of treatable illnesses. And the other part where the government decided to interfere was education. The education, there were many different kinds of schools, charter schools, private schools, public schools, and religious schools that were flourishing in the country. But then the government said, people shouldn't pay for education. So we are going to close down all of this and bring all the resources together, and we are going to create a free public education. But after some years, that free public education became overburdened, and it literally became broken, as schools don't have teachers now. If they have teachers, they don't have enough supplies. If they have enough supplies, they don't also have enough to go on. And even if they have all of that, the government uses the schools to indoctrinate the population to only hear one truth and also serve the government in all ways. And the government came after basic services. There were many people who either produce stuff, like farmers who will produce their product and bring it to market, or there were many other people who would import other stuff from other countries. Well, the government banned all export licenses to everyone, and the government became the only entity that brings food and other stuff from other countries and sell these through government shops or government centers. So it's very common, not that people won't have choices. For example, if people would want to buy a milk, they will only have one brand of milk, and that is very scarce. There is only few during the day, so people would line on the streets for many hours, as you can see in the picture, just to get basic grocery like bread and milk that we all take for granted and just go for it, take grocery and pick up. And when all that happens, the question then comes, what do people do? People are being arrested for their faith. People are being arrested because they are journalists. People are being arrested because they just say something that is considered against the government. So the only choice for many people is to leave. But then the government also restricted freedom of movement. That means you would need a passport and an exit visa, a permit from the government to leave the country. And if you are in the national service, which means between the age of 16 and 45, you are not allowed to leave. So the only way to live for many people would be to cross the borders illegally on foot by putting themselves on danger. And to stop that, the government then restricts freedom of movement within the country, where that is because of two things. One, the government doesn't want people from different communities to engage and to interact with each other, so they want the communities to stay where they are. And that way, they restricted freedom of movement within the country, which means in every major city or when you leave one city to another city, there will be like roadblocks like you see in the picture where they are like managed roadblocks, and you will be asked to show your freedom papers, a permit that allows you to travel from one city to another city. If you don't have that, you will be considered as someone who is trying to leave the country illegally, and you can get arrested up to 3 years. But this didn't stop people from trying to leave. So many people, including me, have to walk in the deserts and mountains for many days at night, because you cannot walk during the day, you can get caught. So you hide during the day. Me and two of my friends have to leave, for example, and we have to trek through the mountains, because the mountains are the only safe space, as the government cannot control the whole border. And when you trek through the mountains at night, a lot of things could happen, right? You could fall down, break your bones. And the government has a shoot-to-kill policy like North Korea, which means the border patrol at the border are instructed to shoot anybody who they will ask you to stop. If you stop, you will get arrested, taken to detention centers and hard labor camps for 3 years. If you didn't stop, they can shoot at you and kill you. And that is a story that you would hear from many Eritreans. They know someone, either their friend or their relative, who died while they are trying to cross the border. If you didn't go through that, it is wilderness. There are many wild animals, and you have to cross at night, which means a lot of people would lose their lives through that way. And some of people would also try to cross through the desert borders, which means a lot of people will die of hunger and thirst while they are trying to cross the border. And once people cross the border, I don't know if you can see the map, but they cross to neighboring countries, and from there, people will continue their journey, as you can see in the slides, through pickup cars in the desert, or through these small boats in Mediterranean Sea, trying to reach the safety of Europe. And all people do all of that for the basic freedoms that we all should have as human beings. Because people, everyone, including me, would rather risk of doing this than living in a country where like your whole life is a prison and somebody is running your lives. Now, when we all see back to that, when we all reflect, we realize that a lot of things contribute to that, right? Of course, our government, like any government in the world, would want more control, more power, but we as people didn't stop them. For many of us, for many of the generation before me that were young people at that time, they were not involved in the country affairs at all, whether it's local politics, whether it's national politics, whether it's civic affairs, starting from from school boards to local elections and so on. People were not interested in their civic life. So when all these things were happening, it was hard for people to understand because they were not involved. And it's usually young people who care about their future, always care about those issues. But at that time, the young generation of that time, I was obviously very young to remember all of that, but the young generation of that time, when you talk to them, when you ask them like, what were you doing when all this were happening, and they will tell you, we weren't doing anything because we didn't even know that was happening. When the government said we will do this, it's always packaged in good words and good deeds and good plans. The fact that we wouldn't even think this could happen to us. And then when I have a conversation here, or when all of us in the Dissident Project have a conversation here with many young people in America, that's what they say. They say that, oh, this is a story in some far, far away, and it's not going to happen to us because we have constitution, we have institutions, we have the Supreme Court, and we have all of that that's going to stop that. But in all these countries, including Eritrea, all of them had all of these things. And it didn't stop that because citizens didn't stand for themselves. At the end, I have some resources that I am going to leave with your teachers, some documentaries that show how people escape Eritrea, or like stories of people in Eritrea that has to go through all of that. Thank you for having me.
Stay in and answer your questions like we did in the other.
Do you have time?
Okay. Yeah, we have lots of time. We have 30 more minutes. Students, we have a couple of microphones that are right here. Mr. Christensen is on this side, and I'll come down to this side. But if you'd like to ask a few questions about his experience, you can come up to these microphones and answer those questions. So let's just get 3 or 4 students at a time to come up on each side, and then they can ask that question.
Hello. Yes. Hello. I have a question about the project of helping the communist and socialist countries. Do you know of any other organizations that are doing similar things?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
Do you know of any other organizations that are helping prevent the rights being removed of other countries?
Yeah, I mean there are many projects that are now trying to do that. As far as I am aware, when it comes about people from different countries that have that experience, who are now trying to educate people, this is the Dissident Project is the first of its kind when it comes to that. But there are other organizations that I have heard, like Freedom Corps, Young People for Freedom, and others who are now like trying to preach the message of freedom.
I want to answer that for a second.
Yes.
American Prep is one of those organizations, by the way.
There you go.
Hey, I'm Shavesh, and I want to know, when you were escaping through the mountains, did either you or your friends get hurt? Because
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, we were fortunate enough by hurt. We didn't had like, of course, there were like minor bruises and stuff, but that's nothing compared to what a lot of people go. So we were lucky enough to cross without that. But many of our friends were not lucky enough.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Christian. Do you remember which leader first started the socialism in Eritrea? Like which leader was elected that started all of this?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So Eritrea, in its current form, gets its independence in 1991. So it's one of the new countries in Africa. And when it does, the people who lead the freedom struggle were the leaders of the country. But there was a parliament, there was constitution, courts, and all of that. And there was always a contention between people who wanted to keep the freedom and people who wanted to erode it. But when September 11 here happened, September 11, 2001, 2 days after that was the day the government, at least the people in the government who wanted to take the country to authoritarianism, they used that opportunity while the world was looking at what was happening in New York to strike down. That's when they arrested, they closed down all the private press and arrested all the journalists. That was the day where they arrested all the political dissidents. That were the day where they closed down the Supreme Court and arrested all the Supreme Court judges.
Thank you.
Hello, sorry. I've had an opportunity to speak with Angesom today, and I want to bring out a couple points. So this is related to that question.
Yes.
So what was it that they were justifying? What were they using to justify doing all of that 2 days after 9/11? It was the safety of the people, right?
Yes.
They were guaranteeing safety for their people because look what just happened in America. We have to keep you safe. So this is how I'm going to keep you safe. We're going to shut down all these things. So they give you something to take your freedom away. It tricks you first, right? This is what we talked about earlier.
Yes, that's true. That's true. It is always all these things come in colorful packages.
In a beautiful package
yes,
that you want. So in answer to his question specifically, I asked you that question earlier.
Yeah.
Who was the person? Who's the bad guy, right? And you said to me, it started as a party.
Yeah.
A party got control because they said they were going to keep everyone safe or they're going to give everyone free things. And then,
right.
but now that party is even gone and it's
Yes.
down to a small group. I didn't realize this happens. And to a dictator, essentially, there's a person, what is his name?
There is now a dictator, Isaias Afwerki, and his group.
He has a group
Usually,
now,
yeah.
but it's not even as large as like a party like we would
Even
say.
the party
Yeah.
is like, because, authoritarians don't even trust their own party.
Authoritarians, they go down to the person, a leader, and a small group of trusted individuals.
Exactly. It's
and
like
that's where it goes.
North Korea,
Yeah.
right? They don't even trust their own
But
party.
it started
yeah.
like us,
It
with two
does,
parties,
yeah.
and now it turned into that. Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mila, and my question is, was there a point in your life, like before all of this happened, when you trusted your government?
Yeah. I mean, basically all of my elementary school, all of my high school, because most of the things that I were telling you happens before me, before I even go to school, right? By the time I go to school, all the private schools were closed. I went to, not only me, everybody went to a public school. And the curriculum was intentionally made to indoctrinate you, to show you how we are the greatest nation in the world, how we are fighting against everybody in the world. Everybody don't like us. In a way, the irony of it is that the government in Eritrea gives its people a message that we are living like this because we want to be free and nobody wants us to be free. Imagine, like, they do all these things to you and they will still preach freedom in a way. They say that we want to be self-reliant, we want to be our own, and all these big countries, they don't want us to be. And now we are fighting them. And since we are fighting them, we are at war, right? So you, as a high schooler, tend to believe that I am a patriotic citizen. We are fighting against all over the world who don't want us to be like this. And in a way, you kind of give a reasoning to all of this. You say, okay, I don't have this, but I don't have this because I am fighting, because we are fighting. But then later on, the more you know, the more you start to read, the more you start to know things, then you realize that's not right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. I wanted to ask you, what religion did you say you believe in, and what did you say was like the national language in Eritrea? Not language, religion.
Can you be a little bit closer to the mic? I can't hear it. Yeah.
What religion do you believe in, and what is like the national religion in Eritrea?
So the way the government say these are the only recognized religions, right, are when it comes to Christianity, there is Eastern Orthodox like in Russia and other countries, and there is a Catholic Church, and then there is a Lutheran Church from Sweden. These are churches that have been in Eritrea for like hundreds of years, right? And there is a Sunni Muslim community too. So these are what the government recognizes. Anybody out of that, the government deemed them illegal and closed down all the faiths. Was there another question there?
Yeah. What religion do you believe in?
So my parents were followers of Eastern Orthodox Christianity, and by the time I grew up, you either your parents are in prison because they believe outside of these churches, or your parents are parts of these churches. So by the time I grew up, my parents were always part of the Eastern Orthodox Church because they don't want anything to happen to us if they ever go to another phase. But I know that at one time my parents were evangelicals, but they converted to the government recognized religion in order to protect us, basically. So I grew up in that church.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you ever, hi, my name's Hudson. Did you ever get caught? And if so, what happened?
So me and my friends didn't get caught. Do you mean when we leave the country? Was that a question? Yeah, so me and my friends didn't get caught. But if you get caught, you could go to detention center, to prison for 3 to 5 years. That's what happened to people who get caught. Thank you.
How many people did they put on the boats that went over the Mediterranean Sea?
What was the question with the boats?
How many people did they put on the boats that went over the Mediterranean Sea?
It depends. So the boats that you see are small fishing boats. They are not supposed to carry people. They are not supposed to carry more than 3-4 people. But they always put hundreds of people in there. That's why many people will drown in the Mediterranean Sea trying to do that trip.
Hi, my name's Layla, and my question for you is, do you think that your homeland will ever go back to normal?
Well, yeah, we were also discussing about that. Sometimes when you don't have everything, what you have is hope, right? You always have to hope that that is going to happen. And that is what keeps you fighting, what keeps you doing the work that we are doing. Because when you don't have hope, you don't have everything. So yes, I hope that's going to happen. And either sooner or later, whether it's in my generation or the generation after me, it's going to happen. Because at the end, I believe that good is going to win over evil. That's my hope. But I don't know when that's going to happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shlok. Okay. How old were you when you escaped your country?
By the time I left, I was 19 years old, and so are my friends. Thank you.
Hi.
Ooh.
Hi. My name's Hazakardi. Sorry, I'm a little sick. Just wondering, is there anything you're hearing currently in the U.S. that is concerningly similar to what the government was saying or what people were campaigning in your country when it turned to this authoritarian government?
You mean here in the U.S.?
Yes.
Yeah, so we were also talking with some of the teachers in the other school about that. One thing that always happens when all these things happens is a break in the fabric of society, a break in society's trust issues among different communities in the country. For me, the biggest concern was that when societies don't trust each other, they will put their trust on somebody who tells them that they are going to fight for them. So although all these communities have us in the same interest, they all want to live, they all want to work, everybody wants to have a family, and but then there will be someone that comes and says, all your challenges is because of these certain people, and you should do this and that in order to protect that. That have been very common in the past, in all the years that I have been here. It's getting bad and bad. So that's my biggest concern, because that will give space to governments to consolidate power. Because now they could say, we are doing this because of that, to prevent certain people, this happening to certain communities. So that's one of the biggest concerns. There also has been a huge shift towards big government in the past few years. That's very concerning. Right now, in my field, in my PhD program, I work in artificial intelligence policy, and we are doing a research on how governments are deploying artificial intelligence for surveillance and for control, which is very concerning right now, because if the government is able to control all our movements, then how can we even stop them from controlling our lives?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm Sonyum, and I was wondering, when you first escaped, how were you feeling?
What's that? Can you repeat that question?
Like thought process when you escaped.
What were you feeling?
What were you feeling? It was many feelings, right? In one way, I was relieved that I escaped from like the state prison, but it was hard also knowing that you may never see your family again, right? All my family live back there. I haven't seen them in like 10 years now. I don't know when is the next time I'm going to see them. So that's hard. Now you know that you are on your own, like you are going to face life on your own. That's the hardest part. But on the other hand, you have also to make a choice. So the fact that you escape, the fact that now you are free to live your life, you feel happy and relieved too. Thank you.
Do you keep in contact with the individuals you escaped with?
I do, yes, keep in contact. We actually had a get-together before some months, because now all of us were able to meet in one place, but we always, yes, keep contact. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Log Ann. I'm just wondering what your favorite color was.
That's a good question. Well, I would say I love the color purple, so that's my favorite color.
Hello, my name is Paulina. You mentioned that some of your friends weren't able to make it. So what can you say to those who flee their country but aren't able to make it?
Well, yeah, so I have some friends back home who, even my family members who have tried to leave the country, but were not lucky enough. So they get detained, they stay in prison for some years, and they will try to do that again, right? Because once you start that journey, you will never look back. Well, I always tell them to keep hope alive, right? Sooner or later, things will not be the same and everything will change. So I always tell them a message of hope that everything is going to be better. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Bentley. My question is, were there any differences of how men and women were expected to be treated, or like how they were treated?
The answer is yes and no. One of the ironical things is many authoritarian countries actually believe in what they call gender equality. But that is equality in misery, right? Which means you both will go into military training, you both will be under national service and so on. So the only way where women will be allowed to leave the national service is if they have a kid, right? And in a way, that was, now that we see it, that was also an intentional government plan, because by opening that as the only space for them to escape, then they are disintegrating families, because the woman would want to have kids no matter what, without thinking about families, without planning, so that they can escape. And then the government will use that to control that again. So yeah, the answer is yes and no. Yes.
And a follow-up to that, I was surprised. So that the 16 to 45 years old military or government service applies to men and women.
Yes.
And that was really shocking to me.
It was, yeah. So.
And unless you have a baby, you're there.
You're
doing
there.
you're working where they tell you to work. You're in
Yes.
training, right?
Yeah, you are doing what they ask you to do.
Hi, my name is Lewis, and I was wondering if there were any smugglers that like smuggle people out, and if so, were they in or outside of the country?
Yes, so there were both. There were people inside the country, especially communities who live in the borders, because they are the ones who know the areas of the borders that are not patrolled. And sometimes there will be people from the neighboring countries who would come in and take people out.
My name is Eden Bailey, and I was wondering what your life looked like after you escaped, and how did you come to the U.S.?
Yeah, so for me, after I escaped, like many of my peers, I went to a refugee camp. I stayed in a refugee camp for some years. And at that time, there was a program sponsored by some institution here that was allowing refugees to apply to universities here in the US and in other countries. And those who get accepted, who were admitted, were able to get resettled as part of the program. So at that time, I remember there were 70 of us from all over the world, all of us refugees who came through that program on that year. And only 2 of us were from Eritrea. And there were like approximately around 500,000 people in the refugee camps that I was in. So I was only among the few who, I guess, get lucky to do that. But for most of them, that's not the case.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Michaela, and my friend over there was My friend over there was wondering what were like the normal jobs that average people could get.
So again, if you are between the age of 16 and 45, you don't even have a choice to do work. The government will tell you what are you going to do. So they will either train you in something and then they will place you somewhere, like any job. But most people would do farming if they have to, if they were free. And some people work in manufacturing in factories, and other people work in service industry.
Hello,
Thank
my
you.
name is Gabriel Jimenez, and I was wondering what your advice to the future generation to keep this from happening is.
Yeah, so the main thing, the main lesson of this is one, learning about other countries will help. Seeing how other countries that were once in a democracy that were free went into authoritarianism, the steps that went, and then looking for those signs, but also engaging into your civic life, your community, what was going on in your community at the local level. Because usually power is at the local level. Most of the decisions that affect us are done at the local level. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is. My name is Boston, and what's the greatest reward of you escaping?
What's that? Sorry, can you repeat?
What's the greatest reward of you escaping from your country?
What's the reward?
What's the greatest?
Well, the greatest reward is freedom. Simply you able to lead your own life, making your own choices, and doing what you want to do. You wouldn't believe it, but when I first escaped, the fact that I was able to go to a grocery that I saw and able to buy stuff with my own money was something different, something that I have to experience for the first time. Because before then, I have to stand in lines for many hours, and I may get or I may not get food, right? Even with my own money. So it starts with that, but it all goes into your the fact that you are able to make your own choices in life. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, my name's Aaliyah Martinez, and I was wondering that if a woman had a baby from the ages of 16 to 45, what was her role expected as a mother, or what was her job?
So if women have a baby, then they can be demobilized, which means they are allowed to lead quote unquote civilian life. But the fact that there isn't a free enterprise, there isn't a lot of businesses, private businesses, their ability to get a job is low. So a lot of them would do informal businesses, small businesses, either crafters or selling stuff in the market, or some of them would even work in service industry.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nancy Wallstead, and I was wondering, when you were in the military, what was your least favorite job?
What was my job?
What was your least favorite?
What was my least favorite? So when I was, I only do the military training. I left the country before I was placed. Well, military training is hard, right? You have to follow discipline, starting from waking up early in the morning, doing everything that you have been told. So for many people, including me, that wasn't the hardest part. But for those who are in the military now, my friends and family, the hardest part is that, one, you wouldn't be able to see your family for a year, maybe once a year while you are in the same country. And also, you wouldn't have freedom to do anything, that you will only do what you have been told.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Oliver Wagner, and I was wondering, after refugees escaped, would other countries send them back?
Well, they usually don't, because there is an international law that protects refugees. But sometimes they do. When, for example, the neighboring country, Sudan, at one time they were friends with the dictatorship in Eritrea. In order to make him happy, they sent thousands of refugees by force. The government in Ethiopia also did that once. But most times they don't, but sometimes they can do that.
Hello, my name is Kenneth Bodley, and my question is, what could we do if we wanted to stop the government from taking complete control in our society here today?
Yeah, so the same thing that I was saying. One, always try to be knowledgeable about that. Reading more about that issue in different countries and learn from that. And then the next step is being engaged in your civic life, starting from your school board, right, or your school government, all the way to your local civic, different civic communities. And then by the time when we have many people who actually care about what happens, then when these things happen, people will say no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Daisy Maravilla. Going back to religion, you said there were 4 religions that the government approved of. Were you ever allowed to just not be a part of a religion, or was it required that you pick one of those 4?
You don't have to, I mean, if you don't pick any of these religions, then the government is happy with you, right? I mean, then they are afraid of religions, not religious people.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Zoe Lee, and I was wondering about how many people are involved in your campaign against this type of government.
Now we have 18 dissidents, and we are always hoping to bring more people to the project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Angesom, give us some last parting words that you have for all of our students here at American Preparatory Academy.
Yeah, so my last word is always don't take anything for granted when it comes to freedom. Try to be more knowledgeable about these issues as much as you can. And the last thing is, once you have the knowledge, you're using knowledge to make decisions about your own future. Thank you.